All of the remaining inhabitants of Harrenhal sailed to the God's Eye to retrieve or revive their king. Bran sat on horseback among Samwell and Sansa. The Isle was coming into view, as announced by Yara at the helm. Roughly 100 soldiers were their escort. A mixture of Northmen and free folk walked about the ship. Gillian Munda walked up to the forecastle and met with Sam. "If you would excuse me for a moment, it seems Lord Varys is awake," said Sam as he hurried away below decks. Osmond inspected the lines, tethered to the deck. Then he spoke with Bran as he passed. "That wanker prisoner, the one with no wanker?" said Osmond. "Yes," answered Bran. "He looks different. You sure we still got the right bloke?" Osmond asked. "Quite sure," said Bran. Yara met them as their sails were lowered.
"Cast all lines and drop canvas,"
she said. What remained of the ice bridge after its partial thaw served as a deep draft dock. The ice protruded out from the isle at least 100 paces. This made it possible to get Bran and his horse onto dry land. Gendry led the landing party, followed by Samwell, Munda, Sansa, Bran, and a handful of Norsemen. The isle was just as Gendry had left it. A pool of dragon blood melted a patch of snow on the beach. Gendry continued off the beach and into the weirwood clearing. There, he met with Kale.
"Welcome, Smith. The stranger is still not well,"
she said. "Please take us to him," answered Gendry. Kale bowed to Bran, and then turned and led the party to the weirwood. Bran trotted his horse up to where Jon's body lay. Blood-soaked primitive bandages wrapped Jon's midsection, and Ghost was sitting by his side. Bran then stared at his brother as he lay dying.
"His time draws near, my raven,"
Kale informed him. Samwell rushed to Jon's side. "No fever, but he's cold, too cold, and pale," Samwell paused. Sansa then knelt at Jon's side.
"Please, Sam, can't you do something? He's been lying in the snow for hours,"
cried Sansa. She then buried her head in Jon's bloody chest and spoke to him.
"You can't leave me here,"
cried Sansa. "We need to get him on board, and to get him warm," pleaded Sam. "Is there anything else that can be done?" asked Bran.
"It's up to the gods now,"
said Kale. Bran mulled on this for a moment. "I'll have to have a word with one of them," said Bran reluctantly. Bran's eyes went blank as he warged into his horse and positioned himself near the weirwood. Then he came out of his trance. Bran reached out and touched the white bark of the great weirwood. Multiple visions flashed before Bran's eyes. Drogon blanketing King's Landing in blue flames. The dead were engaged with the Golden Company. Sellswords and Dothraki were falling from their horses. Bran searched for a mind to enter. Bran thought and searched for another. His ability to warg was dependent on the distance and his history with the subject. He had entered Drogon once, but still another candidate could be better suited. Bran thought of possibly Hodor, but then he was relieved to find another face. Bran exhaled and was delighted to see this familiar face. "Summer!" exclaimed a gleeful Bran. Bran dove into his direwolf's mind, and it was eerily familiar to Viserions, Bran thought. Once again he ran along the dark corridor. The window to his left was tempting, but Bran pushed through his curiosity. He entered the same dark room again. Upon his entry, a few small torches lit the same room. Chained to the floor, in the center of the room, sat Summer. He seemed just a few days old, similar to the age that Bran initially found him. Bran walked along the circular wall briskly. His fingertips lightly grazed the wall as he walked past. Bran wanted to be sure he was alone, and if not, where Daenerys stood. Bran discovered he was alone. He disappointedly looked down at what it used to be his wolf, just one of the many lives Bran had affected. Emotion then filled Bran, thinking of all of them, and how things could have been different.
"Bran,"
said a soft voice. Bran abruptly looked up to see what he thought would have been Daenerys. Her voice was calm, low, but it filled the room. Bran could not tell of what direction it was coming from. He twisted on the spot where he stood, but could make no contact. Her voice, again, filled the entire room.
"Why are you here?"
she asked calmly. "I know you're attacking King's Landing. I cannot fault you for your hatred of its queen," said Bran. "But I am asking you to withdraw," he finished.
"Am I to assume there's a good reason for you to ask this of me?"
asked Daenerys, though her voice seemed to become more localized. Bran peered into the shadows, trying to make contact with her. "There is. Arya is in the castle. She means to kill the queen," admitted Bran.
"I wish her good fortune. but I cannot guarantee her safety if she's inside the Red Keep.
admitted Daenerys. There is also Jon. He resides on death's doorstep, Bran admitted, and there was a prolonged silence. Bran felt the cold rush of a breeze from this windowless room. Faint blue eyes peered at Bran from the shadows. The breeze extinguished all but one of the torches on the walls.
I feel his presence more and more every hour. He is nearly here.
Admitted Daenerys. His place is here with his family. The Red Woman could keep him here, shouted Bran.
I would allow that.
Said Daenerys reluctantly. The Red Woman is in the Red Keep, pleaded Bran.
Cersei murdered my child, betrayed the North, and sits upon my family's throne.
Claimed Daenerys. No one could convince you that Cersei should be spared. I am asking for safety, for time, so Arya could be your vengeance, begged Bran. At these words, Daenerys stepped out of the shadows and revealed herself to Bran. Whenever Bran focused on her appearance, the wall behind her blurred out of focus, and the sky appeared. Numerous dragons were seen flying over her shoulders.
Time is the one commodity I do not have. At any moment, I could find myself in a slumber that could last thousands of years. The ground assault will continue. The Red Keep will fall today. Arya will have her chance.
Daenerys finished. She withdrew from the conversation, and Bran was thrust into Summer. Bran sprinted and leapt through the streets of King's Landing. He dodged falling buildings and flames in the streets. Summer looked up to see Drogon moving from defensive targets to basic infrastructure. Bran would attempt to get to Arya. How would he tell her was the issue? Arya needed to know her mission would likely result in her death.